If you love someone who shuts down, pulls away, or goes emotionally quiet when things get close, this episode is definitely for you. You might feel confused, lonely, or like you're constantly guessing where you stand. Today, you'll learn why people are avoidantly attached, why pursuing them and pursuing that closeness backfires, and how to love an avoidant partner without chasing, over explaining, or disappearing yourself. So stay tuned. Welcome back to the podcast. This is the last episode in a 3-episode arc about love and attachment styles. And it's okay. It stands on its own. If you haven't watched the other 2 yet, you're going to be fine. But I certainly recommend you going back. In the last episode, we talked about loving someone with an anxious attachment style and how reassurance, predictability, and boundaries really help create safety without self-abandonment. Now, today, we're focusing on the other side of that dynamic. So avoidant attachment it's often misunderstood. Like how do I want to start this? And I always share that I am someone who I'm an avoidant attacher, and it is something that I have worked really hard on. So I do want to say that you can, that whole idea, a leopard can't change its spots. It's such crap. People change all the time. I used to, I was a homeless drug addict at one point. I mean, my gosh, yes, we change. People grow. We learn things about ourselves. Absolutely, people change. I'm in the business of that. And I can tell you after 40 years of this, I've seen miracle upon miracle. So I want to say that. And I will tell you that with all the therapy I've done, all the rehabs I was in, all the things, when I am in a fear place, if I'm not being, kind of conscious, this is where I go very quickly. So I think that absolutely I've changed. I think that my level of where I go, how bad, quote unquote, it can get is much better than it ever was. But I do want to, I can lean that way. The good news is, my own work, my insight, et cetera, I can tell pretty quickly when that happens, usually, or I've surrounded myself with people who will, call me out on it, which is great in a loving way. So, but I think avoidance is really misunderstood a lot. I find that avoidant partners are labeled as emotionally unavailable, commitment averse. I hear that a lot. But I'm here to tell you, and first of all, I'm a commitment gal. The research shows avoidance isn't about a lack of feeling. And I have a ton of research for today as usual. And as always, when I talk about research or a link or how to download something, you can find that below the video. If you're watching me on YouTube, please like and subscribe to the video if you are. And you can find it on my website. Go to this episode. Okay. So, and I have a great download for today, and I have a guided visualization and all kinds of things in the Therapy to Go bundle, but I'll talk about that later. So the research really shows us this is not about a lack of feeling for those of us avoidants, okay? It's about how feeling emotionally close activates the threat system in the brain. If anxious attachment is organized around fear of losing connection, I would say avoidant attachment is organized around fear of losing autonomy. And that's I think at the base, the real difference. When intimacy increases, avoidant nervous systems often kind of respond with shutdown, irritation, disengagement of some kind, not because they don't care, but because closeness has become physiologically overwhelming. That's why. And this episode is about understanding that internal experience and learning how to stay connected without chasing or disappearing yourself, because that's, of course, what's going to happen on the other side. And especially, again, if you are anxiously attached, especially, but even if you are avoidantly attached or if you have disorganized attachment, doesn't matter, or even secure attachment, you can feel this way. So let's talk about what avoidant attachment actually is. So the attachment research consistently shows that avoidant attachment develops when emotional needs were minimized, dismissed, or inconsistently met in our early caregiving relationships. And I've talked before about, my mom was a diagnosed narcissist. Um, and so, of course, so many of those needs weren't met for me. And, my dad did not have my little immigrant daddy did not have the skills needed to counteract that in any way. So over time, what happens is that the nervous system adapts by relying really heavily on self-soothing and emotional distance. That's what happens. And so for me, for example, becoming a drug addict really young, right? Talk about self-soothing. But that's in learning that no one out there was going to take care of what was in here. So, and in adulthood, this shows up as really discomfort with dependency. And again, I'll speak for myself. I do not like being dependent on anyone or owing anyone or anything like that, and I still struggle with that, like asking for help or accepting help without thinking I have to do something for them kind of thing. It's, how else do I want to say that? That discomfort also shows up as discomfort with emotional disclosure of any kind, really talking about feelings or how we're doing, or any kind of sustained vulnerability. And there's neuroimaging studies that show that avoidantly attached adults exhibit sort of a dampened activation in brain regions associated with emotional processing during closeness tasks, anything where you're going to have some intimacy. It's amazing, right? While at the same time, simultaneously showing a heightened stress response, right? That's usually not consciously labeled as emotion, I want to say. But so can you imagine? So when you look at an avoidantly attached person's brain, what we're saying is we're damp. If we're doing something that's vulnerable, emotionally close with someone, intimate, right? Our fear response goes up and our emotional our ability to label our emotions and access those goes down, is basically what we can see in the brain. I know. And that's why avoidant partners might seem, they might appear calm, but they're internally feeling flooded or insist, I'm fine, everything's fine, but they have disengaged completely. Okay. I know already some of you are like, oh my gosh, that's my person. I get it. So let me talk about some avoidant attachment subtypes that matter in this. So just like with anxious attachment styles, there's a couple of common subtypes for avoidant attachment that are, talked about a lot in the literature. Okay. And again, I've done previous episodes on, which I'll link to, on all of the attachment styles and where they come from and, really simple versions. But if you're here, you're sort of already know all that. And now this is like the AP course, you know what I mean, in all this. But I'll give you the 101 course also if you want it. I'll link to that. So dismissive avoidance, that's a subtype. Dismissive avoidance learned that emotions didn't lead to comfort or any kind of attunement, any kind of regulation. So independence became the safest strategy. And common patterns with dismissive avoidance are things like minimizing feelings, disengaging during conflict, and intellectualizing instead of emotional processing. That's what I see the most. The research shows that dismissive avoidance tend to, what's the word I want to use? Deactivate their attachment needs by suppressing their emotional cues and prioritizing autonomy. So that's what happens. So they suppress their feelings and prioritize that they have, some sort of autonomy. They may genuinely believe that things like that they are quote unquote low emotion. And I used to think that about myself, when in reality, they've just learned not to rely on emotional connection. That's what that really is. Okay. And then there's fearful avoidant, also called disorganized. And fearful avoidance often experienced caregivers who were both a source of comfort and a threat. Okay. So their caregivers sort of were both of those things. And that creates, as you might imagine, an internal conflict between between wanting closeness and fearing closeness all at the same time. So these kind of partners are usually pursue intimacy intensely and then pull away abruptly. Okay. Yeah, that might explain your whole relationship right there. You're like, that happens all the time. The research links fearful avoidance to higher emotional reactivity, to inconsistent strategies for regulation, like they can't, they don't use the same thing all the time to regulate, and greater relationship instability. That's what we see in the research. And this subtype is often, I think, most confusing to partners, especially anxious partners, because the signals are constantly changing, right? That distance to pursuer thing is just like everywhere all the time. They might love bomb in one moment, and then as soon as you lean in, they run away. So that's why that gets scary. And I think that leads me to talking about why loving an avoidant partner can hurt so much. Because romantic relationships rely on mutual responsiveness and emotional availability. That's what romantic relationships are about. There's a mutual responsiveness. There's some, again, like kind of a co-regulation and having some kind of emotional availability, a healthy one. When one partner consistently withdraws under emotional pressure, the other partner often they're going to experience loneliness, self-doubt, probably chronic insecurity. And I don't say all this to say that means it's this person's fault that you're feeling that way. If this is you, if you're feeling insecure, it's not their fault. The insecurity is on you. I am saying that, but that relationship between the two of you, that dynamic, is making that worse for you, for sure. When you look at the research, the studies show that partners of avoidantly attached people report things like lower perceived intimacy. They don't feel it right. Higher emotional strain. And even when the relationship is otherwise stable, they feel these things. They still feel like they don't quite have this person. That comes up a lot. And the pain is really coming from repeated experiences of reaching for connection and finding distance instead, not having it there. And over time, what I see is that people who love avoidantly attached folks, those people start shrinking their needs to preserve the relationship, which is obviously quietly eroding not just trust in the relationship, but self-trust. Because you can't even count on yourself anymore. You're giving up yourself. And that's why I say, again, this is your responsibility. If you love an avoidantly attached person and you've been putting up with things for a long time, that is for you to figure out why you've allowed that. I mean, it really is. It's not, again, we want to improve the relationship, and that's what today is about. And you can try these things and hopefully it'll improve, because it can. But you also have to take responsibility and not just blame the other person for where things are, because you're an adult and you've been staying in this relationship. You've been allowing this, you've been shrinking, you've been not saying your needs, you've been doing all these things. And that part is on you. I say with all the love in my heart, all the love I have, all the love. All right. And you know what? So let's talk now about loving an avoidant partner, depending on your attachment style. Let's go there for a minute. So if you're anxious, this pairing creates, like I just said, the kind of classic pursue withdraw cycle, right? Which is, documented extensively in attachment research. It's everywhere. Your attempts to connect increase their stress and their withdrawal then increases yours, right? Right? You're like, yes, that's my relationship. Anxious partners often respond by escalating emotional expression. And they make a lot of reassurance requests. There's a lot of urgency. There's a lot of feelings that are big. And here's what's scary. The research shows those things are going to really activate an avoidant into really pulling back even more. So your work isn't caring less. I want to say that your work isn't about caring less. I don't want you to care less. I want you to regulate first. And your work is communicating clearly without all that urgency and overflow of emotion. And I'll talk about how to do that. So stay with me. Now, if you're avoidant too, okay, avoidant relationships often, what I find, they appear really calm and conflict free, but they really lack emotional depth. That's the problem there. And the research shows that these couples often maintain stability, but there's not much intimacy. Rarely are unmet needs addressed. And so what happens is that ultimately dissatisfaction becomes really significant. So they go along, everything seems calm, and then it's a shock when they break up or get divorced. And it's so common, I can't even tell you. The risk here, it's not emotional chaos, it's emotional stagnation, because no one's getting their needs met, no one's going to the other person, no trust is really building. Distrust isn't building, it's just nothing. There's stagnation, there's no movement. And we can only do that for so long. And then eventually we feel really unfulfilled and like we're not getting what we need and tend to leave. Now, let's say if you're more secure. People who are more secure often feel confused or sort of slowly depleted over time. And the research shows that secure individuals often what's the word I want to use? Like buffer these insecure dynamics, whatever the insecurity is, for a time. That happens. But that over-functioning eventually leads to an imbalance, which leads to resentment, right? So if you're a little more secure, your role isn't to parent or to rehabilitate. It's to stay emotionally available while maintaining really clear boundaries, okay? So, and again, I'll talk about that in a minute. But I do want to give a little loving hard truth about avoidant attachment. Avoidant attachment, it doesn't soften through emotional pressure. And that's the thing to really keep in mind. The studies, and there's a lot of them again, and I've linked to many, consistently show that pursuit of that person, criticism, or repeated emotional kind of processing really increases avoidance. Okay. It increases the avoidant person's strategies of avoidance. Okay. What the research shows is that avoidance reduces when the nervous system experiences low pressure. Okay, like a low pressure connection, I guess is what I want to say there. When they experience consistent boundaries, I'm the boundary girl, and a predictable responsiveness. And you can't convince someone into safety. You can only create conditions where safety becomes possible. And that's what I want to help you with today. Okay. All right. So I want to give you these 7 research-backed ways to love an avoidant partner. Okay. Because again, avoidant attachment doesn't respond to pressure, to emotional intensity, or repeated processing. Let's keep talking about it. Right. So I've already said that the majority of research consistently shows that avoidant nervous systems, again, deactivate under what they perceive as closeness demands. And it gets especially bad if they feel like their autonomy is feels threatened to them. Okay. So loving an avoidant partner well means changing how connection is offered. So not giving up on connection, but changing how it's offered. And so each of the strategies I'm going to tell you really aligns with research on autonomy support, emotional regulation, and attachment security development. Okay. So I just really want to say that. And let me say this too, the free download for today, I've been killing it season 8 with the free downloads. The free download for today is, I called it Loving an Avoidant Partner, 10 Things to Say and Not to Say When They Pull Away, right? It's like a guide that gives you, there's clear scripts, like things to say. I always find people want to know what exactly to say. Common traps. There's repair language in there, because the idea is you want to show up grounded, direct, self-respecting, right? So that's the free download for today. So anyway, and I'll talk about that more at the end with the Therapy to Go bundle. If this episode is really hitting you, like, oh my God, I need work here, I do have something you can buy, but that download is free. But I'll talk about that later. So let's talk about number one. The first thing to look at is lower emotional intensity without lowering emotional honesty. That's how I want to say that. So avoidant partners aren't afraid of honesty. I do want to say that. They're afraid of emotional overwhelm. I'm going to say that again. Avoidant people, they're not afraid of honesty. We can handle honesty. What we don't love is, or what we're afraid of, I should say, is this emotional overwhelm. That feels like anything that we'll avoid. Okay. Again, I think I shouldn't keep saying we, because I really am much better at this stuff, but it takes a minute. When conversations come in like hot, fast, loaded with urgency, an avoidant person's nervous system registers threat and move towards shutdown. That's what it does. It moves right towards shutdown or withdrawing in some way. So this doesn't mean you say less. It means you say it more simply and less emotionally charged. Okay. So for example, yeah, I know I'm giving it away. I'm giving you everything here. I'm giving you all the love. I'm not just saying the thing. I'm going to give you an example for each thing. So for example, instead of saying, we need to talk right now because this really matters and I don't know what's happening with us, something like that, I would invite you to try, hey, there's something important I want to talk about. Can we do that later tonight? Same honesty, right? Less threat. That you want honesty without the threat. And that research I mentioned early on, earlier on attachment deactivation, shows that tone and intensity matter more than content for avoidantly attached people. Did you hear that? Tone and intensity matter more than content when we're talking about avoidantly attached people. So you need to check yourself before you wreck yourself. Like if you want to love this person and get somewhere and really have something meaningful happen, and I would say that for anybody anyway, that we don't want to come in hot at people. But this is a biggie for you. All right. Number two, say what you want once clearly, and then stop selling it. That's my number two. So again, as I've said, avoidant attachment, those people with avoidant attachment shut down when their partner's needs feel repetitive or emotionally escalated. So what sounds like clarifying to you, right? You're trying to clarify because you haven't gotten what you wanted yet, so I better say it another way. What sounds like clarifying to you often feels like pressure to them. So state your need calmly and directly, and then give space for them to process. Again, so for example, you might say, what might you say? Hey, I want more consistent check-ins during the week. Please think about how that might work for you. And, let's talk later in the week about how we can come together on something like that. I said that a little long, but you get the idea. Then stop explaining or trying to convince. That's it. Avoidant partners, I will tell you this, often need time to internalize requests before they respond. So repetition, when you keep repeating something, it activates resistance, not reflection. And everything I'm saying is true because you've experienced it already if you're listening. You're like, oh my gosh, has Abby been in my house? No, I have not. Well, maybe I have. No, I was kidding. No, I have not. But I've been doing this a long time and I know the research. I know what works with my clients and what doesn't. I see people's reactions to things. So that's what I'm telling you, right? All right. Number three, you want to allow space without disappearing or punishing. This is a big one. So avoidant nervous systems really regulate through space, having some space, while anxious nervous systems hate space. They fear having too much space, right? So the key here is structured space, not emotional silence. That's the key. This is what I recommend when I have my clients in this space. Because space without explanation feels like abandonment to the other person usually, right? Like, oh, I need to take some space. When there's nothing else, the person usually feels abandoned when someone says that. So space without reconnection plans I think really escalates fear on both sides. So you want to be really careful. So for example, instead of going quiet or leaving abruptly, maybe you could try saying something like, hey, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm going to take the afternoon and we'll reconnect tonight. Do you see that? Space with clarity. The research shows that avoidant partners return to connection more easily when autonomy is supported without any kind of, again, like relational threat, without any kind of threat about the relationship. And if the person is saying it to you, you can say, like, if they're like, I just need some space, you're like, great, you should totally take space. Tell you what, let's come back. How about tonight? Why don't we talk tonight? Go do what you got to do, and I'll check in with you after dinner. Do it that way. If they don't give you that cue, you can give them the cue, right? And again, don't act abandoned or rejected or anything else. Be in that moment. And let me say, for all of these things, you really, 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 did I say really? Really need to be mindful. You have to be in your moments so that you can you can act, not react. And if you haven't downloaded my free mindfulness starter kit yet, which you can get here below the video or at the website on the shop page, it's on the shop page, but it's free. It's really time. You've got to start. Do the keyword mindfulness on my website. There's so many free resources. It's not even funny. Without mindfulness, the rest of this is crap. I can teach you every great tool in the world. If you don't remember to use it in the moment, it's useless. So you have to work on your mindfulness while you're doing all this. So you can notice these reactions and stop them before they take over. Okay. I don't ever want to hear, I can't help it, or I just reacted, I couldn't help it. Oh, the victim stuff makes me crazy. Like, you're not going to change your life acting like a victim. And I want you to change your life. I want you to have happiness, love, connection, all the good things. There's no reason you shouldn't and can't. So, all right. Number 4. Stop chasing emotional processing in the moment. This is something, I see so much. That was my Jewish mother, Avoidant partners typically process emotions internally and later, okay, and not in the moment. So pushing for real-time emotional access is going to backfire. I'm telling you, and you already know this is true because you've already tried it. If you chase vulnerability, you'll usually get distance. Not because they don't want to, because they can't in the moment. We suck at this, okay? Instead of saying, tell me how you feel right now. You might try, you don't need to respond yet. Think about it, and we'll revisit it later. Again, and then say to later. There's been a lot of studies on emotional regulation in avoidant attachment, and they show that delayed processing improves engagement and reduces shutdown. Okay? So again, the research is, I'm not just making up crap and throwing it at you, okay? I'm not talking about, this worked for me because I was avoidant. That's crap. What I'm saying is my 40 years of experience using this with clients, and what the research says is effective. So that's what I'm giving you. Okay. Number 5, use presence more than words. Avoidant attachment is often more responsive to like shared presence. I'll try to explain this, than to verbal intimacy. Okay. So connection doesn't always have to look like a deep emotional conversation. Sometimes safety is built through this calm, low demand closeness. So you might try sitting together without talking. You might try doing an activity side by side. I will say, like, cooking dinner together. What a great way. Chopping some veggies together, walking the dog together. Really good. Really get a dog. If you don't have one and this is going on, get a dog and go walk it together. Doing any activity side by side, really. some physical closeness without emotional interrogation. That's what we're looking for. Okay. And there is neurobiological research on this. Okay. So neurobiological research shows that avoidant partners experience safety through nonverbal co-regulation more readily than emotional disclosure. I hope that makes sense. Okay. That's what I'm saying. So avoidant people do better. They experience you're going to get a better result if you shut up. I say with love. Say with love. I'm saying with so much love. And really work on, I always say you have to connect before you correct. That's kind of what this is. But for them, the connect, I know for you it might be through the talking, but for them it's not. It is through just having some ease, calming their nervous system. Again, doing something maybe side by side a little, going for a drive together. If you have a convertible, put the top down, and go for a drive together. It's if not, and I'm recording this when there's a lot of bad weather here in the United States. So, not a lot of snow and stuff. So maybe not today, but you get the idea. Okay. So really think about that. All right. Number 6 is to hold boundaries without emotional escalation. Okay. This is a biggie also. Avoidant partners don't respond well to emotionally charged boundaries. Okay. I'm sure you can understand that from everything I've just said. But having said that, they really tend to respect calm, clear ones. Because again, remember, they're okay with honesty. That's not the problem. It's the emotionality around it that causes them to run. So boundaries, believe it or not, reduce overwhelm when they're predictable and steady. Don't be changing them all the time. Don't be something different. So instead of emotionally escalating with something like, I can't keep doing this, it's too much, you could try, hey, I'm not okay with you disappearing for days. We need a clearer plan. Right? Very different. Again, research shows autonomy supportive boundaries. So you're supporting their autonomy, but you still have a boundary around it. Like they can leave, but we're going to talk later, kind of thing, right? The research shows that autonomy supportive boundaries increase relationship stability with avoidant partners. It does. While emotional pressure increases withdrawal. So it's up to you. Which would you like? Do you want to be correct or effective? You can be right all day that they're being a jerk or whatever. But if you're not getting the desired outcome, I guess I'm just not sure why you keep hanging on to that. And then number 7, you want to let repair replace pressure. And what I mean by that is avoidant partners often back up after safety is restored. Okay. I meant open up. Sorry, back up. Avoidant people will open up when safety is restored, but they won't open up when they feel cornered. And I think that's true for most people, frankly. But so repair is where the trust grows. That's really important. So after a tense moment, you might try saying something like, wow, that got really hard earlier. I'm grounded again. I did my breathing exercises, whatever, and I'm still here. I'm here, just letting you know. No interrogation, no processing marathon, just steadiness. And again, the research shows that consistent repair after the conflict increases that emotional accessibility over time, even in avoidant attachment styles. So this is true for everybody, but even here. So I'm close to the end. Give me a minute. And I just want to say some big picture items here, like why these work. All 7 of these strategies are effective because they ultimately do the same thing. They reduce perceived threat, they protect autonomy, they create predictable safety, right? They allow closeness without overwhelm. Avoidant attachment doesn't heal through force. It softens through reliable, low pressure connection that doesn't require either partner to disappear, because we don't want that, right? All right, let me wrap up and then we'll get to the good stuff. So I think what I want to say overall is that this episode isn't about, it's not about tolerating emotional unavailability or settling in any way. I don't want you to do that. It's about understanding the nervous system kind of logic underneath avoidance. So you can stop personalizing their withdrawal, so you can change the interaction pattern, so you can stay connected to yourself, so you can decide what's actually sustainable, right? What, like, you need to really make choices here in this relationship. And I want to reiterate that avoidant attachment isn't a character flaw, just like anxious attachment is not a character flaw. It's a survival strategy shaped by early experience and then reinforced by really nervous system learning. So you can love with steadiness, with boundaries, and maybe it's time to get my Boundaries Made Easy book. Hello, or the Boundaries Made Easier relationship, the workbook. I'm telling you, like, you can do this. And if the relationship requires you to chronically shrink or silence yourself, that's important information. It's not a failure. It's important information you should have. And I want you to have. Okay. All right. So I want to talk to you about the Therapy to Go bundle. If you were listening going, oh my God, me, I do offer, again, you can download the free Loving an Avoidant Partner 10 Things to Say and Not Say when they pull away. Okay. Again, right? So, but I also have a Therapy to Go bundle. And the way this works, if this is your first time listening, is that I have an online Substack community, the One Love Collective, where you get lots of stuff. You get early drops of the podcast. You get no ads. If you hate the ads that are the podcast, you get early drops of the blog. You get 2 live Q&As with me a month. You get an amazing community, really supportive, ongoing. I'm in there every day, pretty much, unless I'm sick or something's going on. I'm in there. I love it in there. We're always chatting. People ask for help or, advice or something. It's such a great community. And they get what I'm going to give you included. And that it's $8 a month to join my Substack community. It's also a great way to support me. If you love what you get here and you're like, I'd love to support Abby, I can't think of a nicer way for you to do that. If you want to just buy the Therapy to Go bundle and you don't want all of that, it's $10 per bundle. So it's $10 for everything I'm about to tell you. But if you want to join for $8 a month, you get every bundle, all the giveaways for included. So I'm just saying that seems like a better deal to me, but if this is a one-off for you, you might really like this. And I love these Therapy to Go bundles. If you have a therapist, be a great thing to do with them or work on with them. And if you don't, it's meant to be kind of therapy on your own to work through this, to get to the deeper issues. And I'm really excited because with this one, I have Staying Connected Without Losing Yourself. It's a guided visualization for loving an avoidant partner. So you have this, like, I recorded it already. I think it was like 7 to 10 minutes, something in there, but it's a guided visualization to really help you because some people just do better with that. You also get boundaries and scripts when they pull away. You also get journaling prompts. You also get repair after shutdown, how to reconnect without chasing, punishing, or, reopening the wound. You also get when they pull away, what I do, what I feel, and what I'm actually afraid of. Okay. All of that plus the free download is all included in the bundle. You don't have to get that separate. Again, all that's $10, or you can download that on my website or below the video if you're watching on YouTube, or you can pay $8 a month and get all and I usually have 4 episodes a month. So that would be 4 bundles a month. Plus all the rest of the things I mentioned. Again, that's totally up to you, but lots of people have been buying the bundles and I've been getting lots of wonderful feedback like, oh my gosh, I would have paid $20 for this. It was so good. So, which is really nice to hear. And there you have it. All right. So that was my 3-part arc. If you haven't listened yet, go back to the other videos. I think they're really useful to put everything into context. And I hope you apply all the tools you've learned and really create the relationship of your dreams because you deserve it. All right. Love you so much. So much. Thank you for being here with me. Means the world. And I'll talk to you next week.